Hi. There you go.
Hello, everyone. This is Richard with Idle Musings of the Nerd Mind, and I have my friend John here.
How's it
John,
going?
would you like to tell everybody uh, who you are and everything? Sorry
Yes.
about that, audience. Go ahead, John. I'm so sorry.
So who I am is John Handem Piette. I'm a filmmaker and a regular on the podcast, and happy to be back and
We're
get
happy
into
to have
it.
you here.
Thank you.
We're glad to have you here, man.
So,
So,
on.
let's hear about what you've been doing in some of your new projects.
Yeah, for sure. So I've been working with some indigenous organizations recently, and so I'm
Okay.
working on a couple of different documentary projects right now. So one of them is actually a trip that I went on last year to Mexico to visit community partners that we work with in funding these indigenous communities. So we visited communities all around Mexico, and I documented us just seeing how the money affected their living circumstances. And it's kind of, really touching, just communities that are being helped by this funding. And so that web series is on our Seeds of Wisdom YouTube channel, and it's already started airing. So 3 episodes are out now. 3 more episodes are coming out. So it'll be a 6-part series just kind of documenting that whole trip through Mexico. And then I'm working on another feature film documentary too, which is about these Native American tribes that are forming a peace agreement. And so they've been in conflict for 100 years, and so they finally want to bury the hatchet and form a new peace agreement. And so this has been a really long process, and so these historical gatherings have been taking place, and I already filmed the first one just outside Toronto in Ontario, Canada in September, and it was just mind-blowing. This huge gathering with really esteemed chiefs and elders from Native American tribes and First Nations tribes. And so these 2 tribes and nations are going to form this peace agreement. And I think, it's probably still a year away because there are a few more gatherings that still happen. So that one is a long-term project. But yeah, those are my 2 projects. The first one's called Voices of the Indigenous Mexico.
Cool.
And the other one is, featured length documentary that I'll be able to talk about a lot more later on this year.
Oh my goodness. Oh my God. You are always busy and you are always doing like amazing stuff. My God.
Thanks. Yeah,
I
trying.
mean, I don't even know what to say. Like about I know what to say, but like at the same time, you just always do such wonderful things. And how could you explain it? How do you get in contact with this? Is it you, or is someone bringing you these things, like an agent or something like that? Because I know a lot of people aren't familiar with how this works.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I mean, earlier on in my career, a lot of it was me pitching things and seeking people out to work with. But I've been fortunate enough that now I have enough out there that people actually seek me out, and they can kind of tell that the types of storytelling I like to do are things that are moving emotionally, but also grounded in some type of social progressive theme or message,
Right.
And so I've been aligned with these organizations that have wanted to work with me. And so it's been a real honor because I'm not Native American. I do have indigenous roots from Africa, but I haven't really delved into those. And so they're inspired by the fact that the work I'm doing with them is making me more curious about my indigenous roots. But they really, just as a storyteller, I think that they just embraced me. And it's hard to document these tribes because there's so many things you can't film, and there's protocol around what's acceptable to document. And they've also, obviously, the Western world has done them really wrong in the narrative, the tribal and the quote unquote Indian narrative. Even in Killers of the Flower Moon, which I think is a masterful film, it still depicts an outdated, violent trope of Native Americans just being slaughtered. And so these are stories that are aspirational and are about the joy and about the hope that still exists in these communities, and and them also leading the charge for peace and healing the earth. And so it's the stuff that I hear, these interviews that I do with these elders. I mean, I couldn't even begin to tell you how amazing and inspiring and mind-blowing these things are, because they've had these prophecies that they know that some of the things that are happening in the world were sort of meant to happen, and that they're going to help lead us where we need to go. And when you see, you know, people who are fighting each other over land, and people who have historic conflicts that take place over hundreds of years, it's amazing to see these tribes say, look, you know, we know that what's happening in the world isn't really trending in the right direction, so we have to lead by example and form peace. And so that's the story
Right.
we're telling with this movie. And I think I'm just lucky, man, that I have enough things out there now, and I've been at this long enough that people can seek me out to help tell their stories in a way that will honor their culture and hopefully entertain a lot of people, and also be an interesting film.
It's not luck. It's not luck. You do good work, and um, I've turned a couple of my friends onto you, and they're just in awe. And they're like, "You know him?" I'm like, "We haven't like physically met, but I'm like, hey, you know."
We definitely
But
know each other. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we know each other. We have a rapport and everything, but
Yeah.
like actual standing in the same room,
It's
not yet,
it's
not
funny.
yet.
It's flattering to hear that, just because, you know, I'm always, you know, I'm working on these projects that I get really, I don't know, when, you know, when you're working on a big project, you get stuck in it, and um, it's all you can think about. And I don't necessarily think about how it applies to my career. I just think about it. I was just actually having this conversation with a couple of the elders that I'm working with on this project, that
Right,
like, yeah, it's about honoring their story. But I never think that, you know, I don't know. I don't know how it looks on the outside looking in, but I just hope that, you know, there's a film that somebody can watch one day and be inspired to live their life in a new way, in a way that makes them happier, and um, brings us to some type of normalcy, or common
right.
sense, or, you know, some type of I don't know, drag us out of what we've been sort of stuck in for the last 6 years, it feels like.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely learn something from it. And my God, I guess the one thing I really want to ask you, how far out is this from actually showing? Are you going to South by Southwest this year? Um,
Yeah.
are you
So,
any of this? Is it going to show there?
well, so there's a couple of answers to that. So this documentary I'm
Okay,
working on now, they're still working on the peace agreement. So there's still active things happening. And so, you know, things technically could fall apart. I don't think that they will, because things have been trending in the right direction, and the
right,
the main part of the gathering already happened. But the next gathering, which is going to fortify the peace agreement, isn't until November. So I'm going to be editing all this footage that I've already filmed until then, and then this
right.
last piece. So the earliest that it would probably premiere would be in 2025, probably sometime in this.
Wow.
So I think I have to think about some of the festivals, but
Yeah,
Telluride is one we've had our eye on, I think. But, you know, we always think about Sundance, and we always think about South by. So it just depends what
yeah.
makes sense. But I really feel like it's one that I hope does play at one of those top tier festivals.
Yeah. I mean, that's my hope. And a lot of my friends who are absolutely asking about you, well, they call themselves cinephiles, and, like, oh my God, I love that. I'm like, okay, okay, okay. They're all in Austin, of course, and they're just like, is he coming here? This, that, and the other. And we want to see like his new stuff. And a couple of these people do have access to South by Southwest, especially the film portion of it. So that's where this is coming from.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, and they're just like,
that's
oh, we want to see anyway. But
yeah. I love
I,
Austin. I mean, you know, just going to school there at the time that I went to school there, and the filmmakers
mhm,
that came out of that program. Yeah, there was some weird synergy around that time, winning the national title in 06. So it was a good time to be there, but I haven't really been back that much. But South
Right.
by, I mean, yeah, I think one of the program directors that I went to film school with is like on the selection committee or helps run the selections. So
Oh my God.
I do know a couple people too. Janet Pearson, I don't know if she still runs South by, but her husband was one of my film professors. So
Oh
I
my
have
God.
old connections there. I would love to go back to Austin. I mean, it would be an amazing place to go back to and go to my old stomping.
Yeah. Well, it's I haven't. So weird. I haven't been in a little bit. Kind of fell in love with Denver a lot. Um, Denver is very much like how Austin used to be 10 years ago,
Yeah.
and it's just awesome. And cannabis is legal. Anyways, versus you know,
Texas is
uh,
pretty backwards, unfortunately.
right, and it's unfortunately still in Texas, but it's a city that has my heart. And I mean, God, I lived there for what, 22 years.
Wow.
And anyway, no, I feel you on that. And
Too many
I mean,
Californians, I think, moved down there, right? It got very Californiaized, very Silicon Valleyized. I hear.
I'm not disagreeing with it's trying to happen here. So,
I
good
bet.
Lord, Lord. Anyway, we'll talk about that. It's like there's a real estate guy I want you to talk to, and he's a documentary. Like he loves documentaries, and he's one of them. And he lives in Austin, but he's coming up here soon. So, uh, anywho, I I know I'm always like, tell me about the strikes. And um, were you a part of the actor strike? Were you a part of the writer strike?
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
you think how everything came down? How do you feel about it? Are you? I'll let you talk. Go
Yeah.
for it.
So I think there are a few ways to think about it. I think on the whole, just big picture, it was a huge victory for the actors and the writers. It was a
Good.
huge victory because the studios were slow playing the writers, and the actors striking and joining the writers in the strike strengthened the writers' position, and galvanized, the energy of both guilds. And so we got a really good deal. Now, I know some actors aren't happy with everything in the deal, but one thing we had to remember
Yeah.
is once we were getting to the end of it, you have to start thinking about diminishing returns,
Yeah.
because there's only so long you can keep people out of work, and it always harms the lowest common denominator first,
Right.
So those people needed to get back to work, and we have to remember and bear in mind that this is just for 3 years. So this deal is just for the next 3 years, and then it's back to the drawing boards in 2.5 years when we have to start negotiating again. So even if you
Yeah.
can't get every single thing that you want right now,
Yeah.
you have to live to fight another day, and
Yeah.
not damage the industry so much that there's no coming back. So
Exactly.
I think the strikes, I think it played out from my perspective as a writer. I wasn't on the actor side, but I was on the writer's side. Uh,
Okay.
it played out, obviously nobody wants a strike, but I mean, I think it played out exactly how we would have hoped that it would play out, which is that the actors
Right.
held out. And, the big hangups, which, the writers and the actors had some similarities on what was really holding things up, which was
Right.
Netflix is the main culprit, but obviously streaming needs to be transparent in what their numbers are, their streaming numbers are, so that they can give bonuses and give residuals based on streams, because that
Absolutely.
wasn't a thing. And that's how TV used to operate, which is if a rerun is really popular and it keeps rerunning, those actors should be getting those checks and those writers should be getting those checks.
Exactly.
On streaming, nobody even really knew the numbers. It was all in the dark, and there was no bonuses. There was no, there were no checks. So, yeah, those things lost you. Did I freeze? Okay, we're back.
I'm still here.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Um,
It froze for a little bit. We're back.
And then the other elephant in the room was AI, right? So people are worried about writers are worried about studios using AI to not write a script that's going to go straight into production. But what writers are worried about is that studios will take writers' concepts, because they're being pitched concepts all the time, right? And I don't know how much you use ChatGPT or any of these language AI models online, but they're really good. You know, there's Bard, you know, the Google one. They're really good at coming up with nuanced stories that are based on thousands and thousands of pages of human literature. So
this is insane.
Knows story arcs. It knows writing cadences and styles. So you can say, hey, write this in the style of an Edgar Allan Poe poem, but like a feature, you know, directed like Sam Raimi, or, you know, you can give it prompts and it will give you a script. Now, writers, we're not worried about that script going into production because that script's not going to be good. But what we're worried about is that the writers that are normally employed to develop ideas won't be because studios will just take somebody's pitch, throw it in an algorithm, and get working drafts of these rough scripts to underpay another writer to come on and just touch up a script. And so what writers demanded is that no script can ever go into production or be made that doesn't go through the hands of a human being. And then for actors on the other side of things, it's their likeness, right? It's the 3D model being used for other films, but only being paid the price of, like, you know, 1 day's worth of work or something, right? And so
sorry, go ahead.
So they wanted a fair deal on being able to use their 3D likeness in perpetuity, because that's where we're headed. You know, we're headed to these de-aged 3D models of actors we know and love. So Tom Cruise could be doing Mission Impossible movies for the rest of but for his likeness with the studio. So
okay, I used to have an agent, in Austin. I used to act, I used to do print work, stage work, and of course, like movies and what have you. Like in the heyday, everyone wanted to come film down there, and Robert Rodriguez, everybody. The thing I remember, and this is where I'm going with it, they would, because we're like, oh, we could get residuals. I mean, I'm young. We were young and whatever. And our agent, Agency Talent, who I was with, they're not around anymore. Anyway, they would buy us out. And they're just like, this is like, yeah, no, this is the asking price, and we're going to go ahead and just buy you out. And do you want it? And our backs were against the wall because half of us are like, we got to pay rent, we're hungry, and all this other stuff. So, with something like that, and then it's insane because aren't they kind of doing that with their likeness? It's like, we'll give you this much money and it's ours from here on out. And I think it's unreal. I mean, anyway.
It's ridiculous because what they're hoping for is that, like, there's an element to all of this that's still very much the unknown. So they're banking on the fact that the actors don't know enough yet to know that they could use these actors in other properties, and not have to pay them additionally for them. But people are catching up really quickly now, and so that's not going to happen anymore. I think these strikes really brought that out into the open, and everybody was on the same page and learned really quickly what the studios were trying to get away with. So I don't think we have to worry about that anymore. I think the most important thing we have to think about is, like, why would we need to do that right now? I think just from a storytelling and filmmaking standpoint, it's unnecessary right now. I'm all for technology improving and crazy things like that happening, but I haven't seen any instance of that being used, whether it was the recent Indiana Jones, de-aging Harrison Ford, or anything like that, where it's been convincing or believable, you know? So I think we're a few years away from that really being a true option, you know?
Right. It's just, it's still scary. And I think a lot of people, especially when the strikes were going on, they're just kind of hearing about this, and they wanted to support the actors. They wanted to support the writers. But I don't think they really understood what was going on, especially like at the time, AI. They're like, I remember, talking to a couple of people, they're like, why are they so threatened? It's like, aren't they helping the writers write scripts? And I'm like, girl, come on. I'm like, did you at least read this much about it? So,
it's
thank you.
word. I think all technology, it's a double-edged sword, because it can be used for good and it can be used for bad. I think the studios using these things is bad, right? Because it's a lazy way of a studio thinking that they can come up with something original or good. But then on the other side of things, it does help writers. Like I've used it, I've used it just to be like, what shouldn't I do with this story? What would the most basic version of this story that, an algorithm write?
Yeah, that's interesting.
What
I
is
didn't know.
so that I can
I didn't know it.
do that? So I think that there's ways to utilize it as a writer that are, that can help inspire and motivate, to send you down certain ways and research in certain ways that is really interesting. But yeah, we're still far away from that actually really being able to take away anyone's jobs artistically. I mean, some jobs are being taken away, but actors and writers don't have to be worried quite yet.
Okay. When would you think they should be worried?
I think
like how many years?
I think in about 1 year.
Oh my God.
I mean,
don't scare people. Don't scare people. I'm totally joking. Oh my goodness.
It could be anywhere from the next 2 years to 5 years, where it's
right.
There's no way to tell the difference, between what a computer wrote or rendered and the real thing. So it's fast.
It's scary. It's still, anyway. I just think a lot of people who are not in the business, or at least who used to be in the business and kind of understand some of it, really feel for actors and really feel for writers, but they don't quite understand it. And they're just like, it's so scary. And I'm like, well, it's all about educating yourself just slightly. If you want to support actors and writers, then get, that little education on it. And so you can really support them and really, really help them. So anyway, that's how I feel.
Totally agree.
So let's talk about the snubs for the Oscars.
Oh yeah, juicy.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, the Oscar nominations. I mean, however you look at it, everyone who was nominated, I think, was very deserving.
Yes.
I think that if we just look at what we're talking about as far as the biggest snubs that made the most noise, I think we're talking about Greta Gerwig directing.
Yes.
Right. And Margot Robbie as actress. And so when I look at the directing category, now one thing people have to sort of realize is that the whole entire Academy votes as a whole body on most of the technical categories and some of the other bigger categories like Best Picture, but Best Director is just voted on by that director committee within the Academy, which is only like 500 something people, or it's a lot smaller than the thousands of people Academy at large. And so they're very picky, and they're probably old and they're probably white and they're probably male. And so it's hard for those women to get in there. Surely we shouldn't have one woman every year. You know, there should be able to be
Yeah.
in one woman, but Justin Triet for Anatomy of the Fall is
Yes.
deserving because that movie is awesome. I mean, it's an incredible movie.
Right.
Personally, I think that Greta should have been nominated because what she was able to pull off, I think it's easy to kind of overlook what she was able to do because she made it look effortless and fun, you know.
Yes.
But it was
Yeah.
wonderful and it was very intellectual, actually, what she was able to pull off.
It really was. It was
And
beautiful.
and on the same token, I think Margot Robbie's overlooked too because she made it look effortless too because she had to hold the whole thing together, you know.
Yeah, she did.
You know, Ryan Gosling had room to play because Margot kind of
Right.
played this straight character that everybody else was able to bounce off of.
Right.
But the thing is like they said this too. Margot Robbie said it, but they're blessed. They're nominated for Best Picture, and I don't think anybody's feeling too sorry for them. They will get their just desserts. They made one of the best movies of the year by any.
I agree.
So, you know, there are a couple of other snubs. I think Greta Lee for Past Lives would have been nice to see her in there. I'm trying to think if there was any other major snub. I'm pretty happy. I mean, for me, Oppenheimer, I mean, it's going to be hard to stop that Oppenheimer train, you know?
Oh, it's good. I just it's gonna win everything. I just feel like just give it to them. You know, don't even call people up there. It's like Oppenheimer, come up, get your trophy, go.
And yeah, you know, there's years like this where like Return of the King or Titanic, where, you know, one movie is just kind of going to run roughshod over the entire ceremony.
Yeah.
You know, and so when I think about snubs, it's not that big of a deal when you know that there's one towering achievement that's going to win everything. It takes the sting out of it because it's like, okay, well, they weren't going to win, you know, so why, you know, like I think they're going to win eventually. You know, they'll be nominated for something. You know, I mean, Scorsese famously, you know, didn't win until Departed. So it's, you know, it's tough. It's a tough business. But you know, I think that they're excited by the achievement, and I don't think they need an Oscar to make them feel any better than they already do.
Yeah. You know, it kind of comes down to, I mean, and I'm just going to say this. If you're not kind of like a movie person or what have you, a lot of the parties that I go to, and you know what I'm going to say, it's the gay Super Bowl. You know? We're going there and we're like screaming at the screen and we're just going crazy. I mean,
me too. I mean, my girlfriend and I, every year we do a Oscar party. And
oh my goodness. Okay.
We started, the first one was the Will Smith slap. So that was like the most captivating, you know, 1 hour of television I think I've ever had during a party. But we were going to do a Barbenheimer theme this year.
Oh my God.
With the snubs, it kind of took the sting out of it. It kind of took the punch out of it because it just feels unfair at this point, you know, because it's not really a competition anymore. It doesn't seem like it anymore. It's one's year, you know what I mean?
I guess because I'm ignorant about how does someone get to be. I mean, like, how many years? I know, like, famous directors and what have you, and especially if you're like in the guild of like sound and stuff like that. How do you get to be on these, on these committees so you can vote? And especially, I would like to see more women and people of color.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's very political, but like I'm in the Writers Guild, and so last year I got to vote in the digital media category, and like news pieces and news features and documentary pieces, and it's like rotating. So I'm not voting this year, but for the Academy, I think that what happens is if you have a movie that's nominated for Best Picture or Best Director or anything, then you make it into that director committee
Okay.
of the Academy. But I think it takes a nomination to get in there,
Okay.
whether it's just for Best Picture or Best Director. And that just takes time. And over the course of these years, once you're in for life, basically. So a lot of these people, it's hard to cycle out and diversify it because there's these legacy people that are just alive and haven't directed anything in 20, 30 years, but they're
See, but
still in there, they're still voting.
yeah,
So it just takes time.
well, that's what kind of makes me a little crazy. Some of these people, exactly what you just said, they haven't done anything in a long time, but they get to sit there and actually, do that. I would think it would be the active directors, the active actors, the people who are out there who are still trying to, climb up there,
Yeah.
and they say it's your peers, but like, I don't know. It's like it seems like it's kind of like a college professor with a tenure. It's like this. You can't get rid of me ever.
The thing about it is too is like I'm of two minds about it, just because I know that like in their day maybe they did enough to be a part of it, and
Okay.
it's the kind of thing showbiz. The people in showbiz are the people that are crazy enough and naive enough, and maybe narcissistic enough to want
Yeah.
to be that and to do that. And so once you make that club, it's really hard to relinquish that club card.
Right.
It's one of those things. And so I know, as hard as it would be to get into something like that, if I ever did get into something like that, it probably would be
Hmm.
just as hard for me to be like, all right, let these young kids, come snatch this up. You know what I mean?
Right.
But the thing is too, I think I would also recognize when I can no longer reflect what an audience, what a general audience is feeling. If I'm too old,
Right.
I would definitely step back if I felt like, look, I didn't get everything everywhere all at once. Like that was over my head.
Right.
Time for me to
Yeah.
retire. You know what I mean? So hopefully people are
Right.
doing that. But what they're doing is just expanding the committees in the Academy. They're adding more people to diversify it now.
Okay. So that it's wonderful to actually hear something like that because I don't know. I mean, like at a certain point, and I mean, I love Scorsese and I love, a lot of these people, but sometimes I'm like, I feel like they might just be slightly out of touch with certain things, especially a lot of the young, filmmakers. It's like, are they even like, it would be great to have like an amazing lunch, meet and greet, even a roundtable discussion, and just have them do that. Have a lot of the older, directors with some of the newer directors, and why not have them inspire each other? I think that would be something that would be absolutely wonderful. And that you see something like that, then you're like, okay, they're heading in the right direction.
Yeah.
Maybe it's in the good hands and what have you. But anyway, that's me.
I think that that's beautiful, and I think that that does happen to some degree. I think certain directors love mentoring the younger filmmakers, and I know Chris Nolan. He invited Ryan Coogler over for dinner, and
Yes.
and
Yeah, yeah.
they had a nice dinner, and I think that that was a gentlemanly thing to do, considering that he was going to use Ryan Coogler's composer and editor. Uh, but I think that's really smart on Nolan's part, because I think Chris Nolan recognized that there's something that he wanted in that energy of that youth, that younger generation,
Right.
that millennial generation. He wants to
Yeah.
collaborate with millennials now because he doesn't. I think he's a pure artist, and he knows that he doesn't want to get out of touch with what the zeitgeist and the general audience is wanting right now. So the rhythm,
Right.
even though he's making a period piece, the rhythm of it, the music, the vibe has this fresh kind of unique feel to it, because I think he's not growing old, so to speak, But I think there's a lot of older other filmmakers who they just don't get it, and they still want to make their thing their way.
Right.
You know, they don't want to change how they do things.
Right.
And those people, you know, that they're just going to have to age out, unfortunately, because we're in a weird transition.
Yeah.
We're in a transition phase right now. And I think Issa Rae said this the other day. And I kind of chuckled because it's like, she was like, I've never seen Hollywood in this much disarray and this much fear. And
Right.
and my first thought was, girl, you've only been in the industry for like what, 10 years or less? It's like
Sit down. You sit down.
in the less than 10 years you've been a power player. But no, I love
I
her.
love it. I love it.
But she's not wrong. Like, I think right
Right.
now people are just like in a sit and wait mode, wait and see mode, and some bold people are doing things like and Barbie and Oppenheimer, and they're being rewarded for it, you know, and some other people are making some other choices that aren't that great, and they're paying the price for that too. And so I just think we're starting to figure out like what this new cadence post-pandemic is going to be of what goes into movie theaters and what goes on to streaming, you know, and how that whole ecosystem works. And so it's just it's an interesting time to be a filmmaker right now. That's why I'm kind of comfortable making documentaries right now and just developing scripts, you know, just because I feel like a year from now, removed from the strikes and everything, we're going to be in the best place we've ever been. I think 1 year from now, the industry is just going to be fully back. I think this is going to be a great box office year. It's going to rebound. Warner Brothers is going to kind of be back in the mix and have a great year. So I think just to be any creative within this next year or two is going to be really exciting. But we came out of a really dark time, and now I think we're just kind of coming out of it.
I love that, and it's really positive what you said, because if you look at a couple of other people, like directors and what have you, they're just like, things aren't getting any better, and we just went through this, and I'm just like, okay, it's like it. I am of the mindset. It's like, how are you looking at things? And if you choose to look at things in such a way that's just so bleak and not, you know, cup half empty, and just, it's going to be that way. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So it's just like, dude, just stop it. It's like,
I think there's a depressing aspect to that too. I think I tend to actually like a lot of older filmmakers and a lot of older comics and stuff, but it gets really sad when you start to see them get to that place where they're just dissing everything that's coming out that's new, because when they get bitter, that's when they're really in that place of like, oh, you're just old now. You know what I mean? Where it's like, it's like, oh, you don't get it anymore. You know what I mean? Because if you're paying attention and you're looking at stuff that maybe didn't look like what it used to, but you're seeing the perspectives that are getting to tell their stories, there's no better time than now. There's never been as much talent. Now that talent needs to be properly curated, and that talent needs to be fostered in the right way and given the right opportunities, and we're still working that part of it out. But as far as the amount of people that are able to tell their stories and have distribution and have an audience, it's never been a better time. So it just depends what you're looking at, you know, and how I think I admire old people who can look around them and be like, oh man, the world is headed in a better place, you know, like it's gonna be better than what we left.
Right. And it's not just, I think it's kind of an overall thing. And as far as even what I'm going into, the profession I'm going into, you'll just get like people that are like, no, you should do it this way. And we can't incorporate, you know, new ideas, new ways of thinking. The whole thing, kind of like Freud and Jung. You know, Jung was mentored by Freud, and Freud, I understood what he was doing. He was very much like, no, they don't take us serious. we have to do these things and act this way and follow by the rules. And Young was like, why not incorporate, mysticism if it's going to help this person heal and get where they need to get? And a good thing about what we're doing right now with counseling and stuff like that is now it's going more towards the patient, and it's or the client, and it's like, what can we do to help you heal and to move forward? Because that's what's important.
Yeah.
Um, and to go back to movies, I think if a lot of the filmmakers, older or new or what have you, if they actually go out there and they actually talk to the audiences and people and don't just live in their bubble,
Yeah.
good Lord, the things that they could come up with and
Oh,
the
absolutely.
stories that
Absolutely.
could be told, whether it's like documentaries or what have you. Sorry, go ahead.
Preach. No,
I know, I'm sorry.
everything. I love that you brought up, the Jung and the Freud reference, and how, I think even in science, as we saw in Oppenheimer, there's the line when Oppenheimer's talking to Einstein, or when Strauss is talking to Oppenheimer about Einstein and says he's the best mind of our time, and Oppenheimer's like, no, of his time, because he implies
Yes.
he
Yeah.
implied, like, he wasn't willing to go deep into the world that he uncovered, right?
Yes.
This atomic world. And I think that that's like life, right? Life is cyclical. And I think that some people, they're here for a time and they do their thing and they leave their mark. But then, their great work or their great mark that they leave behind only serves for that time. And then it's time to usher in the new ideas. And I think that that's what's happening now in the industry and in the arts.
Yeah.
Everything kind of got shaken around and turned upside down with the pandemic, and now
Yeah.
we're kind of like reestablishing what the rules are of the game. And I think, yeah, just the more ideas and the more voices that we get to hear from, the better stories that we're going to get.
I agree, and that is my absolute hope. Anyway, I love film so much, all of it. Some people are like, "Oh, you only watch comic book movies," and I'm just like, "You don't know me. You don't know me, and you have not seen my video collection of everything I got." And I mean,
That's
one
awesome.
of the movies that I absolutely love is Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. It's
Awesome.
amazing. It
Yeah,
is such an amazing movie,
it is.
and there's so much going on that people miss.
Yeah, I mean, it's
And
a
I'm like,
yeah,
you don't get it. I'm like,
yeah.
did you even understand that Benedict Cumberbatch was gay and that he had to let go of his lover in order to do what he had to do? Did you get that? No. Uh huh. Yep. But
Yeah,
I mean, I'm a gay man, so of course I'm like, I saw
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Anyway, I love it. I love. Speaking of films, that well, I loved it. How did you feel about Saltburn? I want to hear.
Saltburn was complex for me because, like, I had a great time with it. As I was watching it, I was really enjoying the hell out of it. But
Mm-hmm.
then it was like one of those types of movies. The more I thought about the plot afterwards, the less water that it kind of held. But, like, I don't think it's that kind of movie. I think Emerald Fennell really did a good job of making, like, a very sensationalistic type, like, memeified, really kind of old school
It was.
thriller. I mean, it was just
Yeah.
fun. It was funny.
Yeah.
It was incredibly well acted and witty. It was sexy. It was just like, I love her. I love her style. I think she's one of the most exciting filmmakers right now. around, you know.
What else has she done? I am not well
So
versed on the other things that she's done.
so she's I actually so she's a writer and an actress. So she was in The Crown, but she also did Promising Young Woman, and that was her like feature debut with Carey Mulligan.
Okay.
Remember that? Did you see that?
No, I haven't seen it, but a couple of my friends have been pushing me. They're like, "You better see it." I'm like, "All right, all
I
right."
really like Saltburn. Yeah, if you liked Saltburn, you're probably gonna like Promising Young Woman because she has a very defined style and a
Okay.
great writer, and
All
she
right.
kind of like the machinations of the plot. She's like very intricate with her plotting, you know, and where things are headed
Mm-hmm.
and the surprises and stuff. So, yeah, I think she's like really starting off with a bang, you know, two films
Nice.
now. She's incredible. Yeah, her, Greta. I mean, they're leading the charge, like this new wave of female filmmakers that are just like, you know,
Yeah.
really, really the best. I mean, Chloe Zhao, um,
Yeah.
Justin Trier now. I mean, things are really opening up in an incredible.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you saw Ava DuVernay's Origin.
I
Um,
haven't. No, not yet. I haven't seen it, but
anyway, but I'm getting off track. Saltburn, I
no,
think.
you're good. You're good. I love it. Good.
Well, you know, Saltburn. It's going to be interesting because, like, I think Emerald Fennell did this in her last film too, but this film it's very much of a piece with the knots, like that time in was it 2011 or something? It's a period piece for a very specific year in the early 2000s, and I think it's
Okay.
interesting that she takes like a moment in time and takes the pop references of that time and creates this nostalgia around it, you know.
Okay. Yeah.
I very much loved, you know, the milieu and like the atmosphere she created of this like,
Yeah.
you know, this like very aristocratic English high society thing with these pop elements, you know, but it's really irreverent. So I love her.
Yeah.
I love her whole mix and her whole stew that she plays with. So I'm
Yeah.
excited anything she does. Yeah.
Well, I will have to say, and I'm not going to ruin it for anybody, I promise, but I, watching it, I just kept thinking this is a mashup of The Talented Mr. Ripley and Dangerous Liaisons.
Yeah.
I just kept going. I'm like, what movie am I watching? I'm like, oh, this is a mashup. Give it to me. So
It's really, and that's what's so great about her too is like I love a filmmaker that really knows the tropes of a genre and the film
Mhm.
of that genre and like takes those themes and flips them on their head or plays with them in a different way so you feel
Yeah.
like you're in familiar territory but like it's way wilder and different in its own way, you know. So
Yeah.
yeah, she's really clever with all that stuff.
Well, I do have to say that oh my god, like anyway, I have a very mixed group of friends, get straight by whatever. And God, like oh my god, like the people who I thought would be put off by it and be like, that is just gross. They're like, I get it. And I'm like, okay. And the people I thought that would be like, yeah, I get it. They were like, what the fuck did I just see? And
So
I'm like, what is going on here?
you know, there's
Anyway,
any good reactions to that movie, but I think the best reaction, you have to look it up. There's this like grandma, this English grandma. She's like
oh no.
she's like, you know, from the country, you know, and I think her grandson made her watch it and he's just like filming her and she has a really like she's just like cursing and like, what did you make me watch? Best thing I've ever seen. You have to look that up.
I will. I will absolutely look it up. I'll probably put it on, the Facebook, page and stuff. But yeah, it's I can't. really say too much about it, but wow, what a movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
What a movie in just so many different ways. I was just like, and I was a little surprised at myself sometimes. I'm like, damn, I'm a prude when it comes to, oh my God, and
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know anyway. I
But
just,
I think that that's part of what the movie is doing is
yeah.
it keeps pushing your limits of what you're comfortable,
Oh,
you
oh
know?
yes.
I mean, that's part of what it's attempting to do, it's just like,
Yeah.
yeah, even if you think that you know how far it's going to go, it's going to go further than that.
Yeah, and it did. And God bless the actor, the lead actor who,
Barry
wow,
Keoghan. Yeah,
Jesus.
he's
Oh
really good.
my God. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of the things I've seen him in, and I've probably seen him in things that I just don't recognize him.
Yeah,
What comes to mind is the Eternals.
yeah, he was great in that.
And he did not get to shine in that
Yeah.
movie the way he should have.
Yeah, he had a couple scenes, but yeah, I think did you see Banshees of Inisherin?
I haven't seen that yet. No.
Oh, you should watch that. It's really one of the best movies one of my favorites from last year. But he's
Okay.
great in that, and so is Colin Farrell.
Shut up. Okay.
Yeah, it's really
All
good.
right.
Yeah,
Okay. Well, then it's on my list officially.
yeah.
Um, I guess. Goodness.
And you know what the funny thing is? A little bit of trivia for you is
Uh,
so um, he made like his big screen debut in a Chris Nolan film.
wait.
Yeah.
Which one?
He was actually in Dunkirk. He was that boy in the boat in Dunkirk.
Are you kidding?
And you know what else is funny is that when Emerald Fennell was writing that script, she originally wanted Timothy Chalamet. And
I can see that. I can
she
see
wanted,
that.
'cause that's the type, right? Like that type of role. Like Chalamet
Yeah.
is the one who seems to be like the it guy getting those roles. Uh,
Right.
or Paul Mescal, one or the other. If you
Oh
want
my
the gruff,
God.
if you want the gruff version, it's Paul Mescal. But
Yeah.
I think it was so Timothy Chalamet, another Nolan alumni as a kid, he was
Hmm.
stellar. But apparently Timothy was already booked, and so Jacob Elordi was like, "Hey, have you thought of Barry for this, Barry Keoghan?" And so
Yeah.
Barry Keoghan got that role, and he absolutely killed it. Yeah, he was great. I mean,
I,
he's just infinitely talented actor. Yeah.
I mean, it seems like it, and I really need to delve in and see more of the things that he's done other than Eternals. So, but I will say, we got Paul
Mescal.
yes,
Yeah.
him and All of Us Strangers. Wow,
Really.
God, I
Wow.
I was like, really? Anyway, I could see him playing both roles. Um,
Awesome.
wow. I mean, I don't think I've seen anyone play a role like that uh, in a
Wow.
really long time. In a really long time. So,
Yeah, I'm
um,
really excited about not only watching All of Us Strangers finally, but Paul Mescal is just yeah. I mean, I still feel like it feels like we're in this place with him where we haven't even seen the tip of the iceberg as far as what he's going to achieve.
yeah,
Already been, and that's crazy to say because he's already been nominated for Best Actor, I think. But
yeah,
he's like he's just getting started. I mean, Gladiator
it
2,
really is.
who knows what Gladiator 2 is going to be? I'm cautiously
It
optimistic.
blows my mind
Yeah,
that Gladiator 2 is even going to happen. I was
I
like,
know,
okay,
I know. I've
I'm
been
done.
slowly preparing myself. I've been playing like old soundtracks and stuff. But I mean, if Paul Mescal is as good as he seems like he is, I mean, he could be giving some Crow energy from circa 1999 2000, which
Yeah,
there's very very few movie stars or actors have achieved what Russell Crowe did in that
Exactly.
2000. I mean, that from 2000 to 2010. I mean, Russell Crowe was the number one guy. So
He was the man
yeah.
during that time. But I will tell you about Paul. He threw himself into this role. I mean, he threw himself. Him and Andy, the um, the lead of this. And I don't know if you've seen them like interview together.
Have yeah.
They are so anyway. I'm just gonna say they're so cute together, and they are just so funny. But to when I say he threw himself all in, man, you really have to be intimate, like have a friendship. I'm not talking about like getting with each other, but you really have to trust the other actor and be intimate and be able to share your emotions and oh god, them on screen, it's electric. It is just ridiculous. Now I need to watch it after this again because
You're getting
I
me
don't
to
know.
watch it. Yeah, I've been
I
wanting to.
don't. It's beautiful, and I don't know what it is about that movie, and oh gosh, I cannot remember the actor's name, but he was Billy Elliot. God, what
Oh,
is this? I cannot remember his name.
let me see.
Uh, he's in it also, and God, I
Really?
cannot believe I forgot the actor's name. Are you looking it up?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh goodness.
Jamie Bell.
Oh Jesus.
Jamie Bell.
He is so absolutely wonderful in this.
Cool.
And I've seen him in goodness, a horror movie that took place during one of the wars, and most of it takes place in a trench.
Wow.
And like he was, with the British and the trench and the whole thing. And I just knew, I knew that his star is just going to keep rising. So all of them did an amazing job, and it was really good. And I need to shut up about this movie because I really do love it
I
that
wish
much.
I had seen it already so we could delve into it, but I'm so
Yeah,
yeah.
we will, we'll talk about it, but it is that time.
Yeah, it comes out
And
on Hulu next week, the 15th. Yeah.
say it again.
It comes out on Hulu on the 15th.
Okay. Well, I'm not gonna tell you how I saw it, but I got to see it, and I get to keep seeing it. So anyway,
Good for you.
I've got all kinds of friends.
Nice.
I'm like, what did you do? I don't want to know. I don't want to know. My
Nice.
father's a police officer. He's retired, but still, I don't want to know. Oh my goodness. So please tell us, um, everybody, where can they find you? Um,
Yeah. So
your plugs, your last plugs.
yeah, so you can find me on all the major platforms. If you look up John H. Piette, you can find me on Twitter, YouTube, my channel. I usually every month or so I'll post something I'm working on, and Facebook. So yeah, come on, join. A lot of cool stuff coming out soon, including the Mexico site visit docu-series
Nice.
and other films coming soon too. And then the next meme, America Civil War.
I was
So
gonna ask.
yeah,
I was gonna ask about that. I
yeah,
can't wait.
it's coming, man. Yeah, yeah.
Oh my goodness, I can't even wait. But
Yeah,
my goodness,
not ready.
John, it's always a pleasure talking to you. And my goodness, thank you for educating us on just oh my god, so much. And I bugged the hell out of you. I know I did, and I'm so
I
sorry
love
about
coming
that.
on, man. Anytime, let me know. I'm a friend of the show, so always happy to be on. Thank you for having me, and always happy to come on and discuss what's going on and plug my stuff. So Thank you,
I
Richard.
love it.
My
Oh
pleasure.
man, don't even worry about it. I love talking with you and having you on here. Okay, I talk way too much. So everybody, we will see you later. This is Richard with the Idle Musings of the Nerd Mind, and wait to the next one because it's coming.